Well, hello everyone, and welcome to 40 Days of Preparation. My name is Adonay, and I will be going over today's devotional with you. We are on day 28 of 40 days. The theme of this week is hearing from God, and the title of today's devotional is The Double-Minded Man. Today we'll be reading out of James chapter 1, verse 2 through 8. So what does it say? Well, in verse 2, it starts by saying, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives liberally without reproach, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith with no doubting. For he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all of his ways." So what does this mean? Here we see instructions on what to do when we're confronted by trials, best known as people problems or difficulties of life, things that seem to be out of our control. The Bible actually addresses our emotions first when we're confronted with these things. First, it says, "Count it all joy." Now, how many of you would agree that being joyful in the most inconvenient day of your life or the worst day of your week is not easy? But the Bible actually tells us that it actually produces patience in you. Then it shifts to address our understanding of said situation. It says, "If any of you lack wisdom, ask of God, who gives liberally." Why would we need wisdom in moments of trials? Because based on your understanding of the situation, then you will react and speak or do something about it, which is your God-given authority and dominion on this earth. You see, the enemy wants to use people problems or sin or bondages to cause you to react and act in a way that goes against God's will or his ways. This is why it's so important for us in those situations to first count it all joy. Don't let it upset you. Then do what? Ask God. He will give you insight to the situation at hand and give you peace. God wouldn't instruct us to ask if he won't give us the answer. It says he gives liberally, meaning he's not holding back his words. He wants to speak to his people, but he encourages us to ask. Why? Why doesn't God just give us wisdom without asking? Because it takes faith to ask. The difference between me asking God for wisdom and me just talking out loud is my faith in God and my faith in his ability to speak to me and my confidence in hearing his voice. Look what it says to the person who doesn't do that. It says, not only will he not receive from what God is trying to say, he will also be tormented with whether or not he reacted or did the right thing, or whether he heard God or not. He will be unstable in everything he does. Otherwise, there will be no fulfillment or peace about where he is going in life and how he is going about it. So what does this mean to us? Well, I share with people all the time that our mind is not a compass for life. It's a process center. It processes data, information, and cause and effect. It is not meant to lead your life or make decisions for us. It is meant to help you form an opinion, sure. It can create hypotheticals, of course, but you are not meant to live in your thoughts of your mind. That's why 2 Corinthians 10, verse 5 teaches us to bring thoughts captive to the obedience of Christ, meaning there are thoughts that disobey Christ. So what should we do when we're confronted with a hardship? Number one, count it all joy. Then what? Ask God. God makes sense of the situation. Why did it happen to me? Is it a result of my disobedience? Is it an attack from the enemy? Is it out of my control? If so, whatever it is, let it create patience in my life. And tell me, God, how to respond to it. If you read your word daily and meditate in it and pray to him and ask, I know he will give you wisdom, liberally, without holding back. Don't be stuck in your mind going back and forth on whether or not you're hearing from God. Trust His word. You ask in faith without doubting, and He will speak. I believe with all of my heart that just how you were created to breathe, God created you with the ability to hear His voice. So count it all joy, ask, and He will speak. As a high school pastor, I can't tell you how many times I get a lot of young people who come and ask me, I don't know if I'm hearing God from now. I'm not sure. The best advice that I can give young people is, number one, is it in line with God's word? Number two, is it causing you to sin? And number three, do you have peace about that? I think you would be surprised at how much you would realize that we all hear from God. It's happened to me all the time, even as a leader of people. I'm constantly coming, Lord, speak to me. And I'll ask myself, am I hearing from the Lord? But then I remember His word. It says He will give liberally to all who ask. So God's not in heaven being conservative with His words. No, on the contrary, He's opening up Himself to speak to His people. So have confidence this day to know that in various trials, ask God and He will speak to you. I hope this devotional blesses you today. I hope that you're continuing to push forward and that you're not stopping, even in the silence. Trust and have faith. You hear from the Lord.